So I'm introducing NutriB2, that's nutrition as a critical link between biodiversity and bee health. And I'm replacing Professor Sarah Leonhardt, who's my chair. So in this project, we proposed the framework for wild bee studies. We proposed that each bee species would have different nutritional requirements so that they would look for pollen with different nutritional nutrient combinations. And that at the same time, when we alter the landscape, for example, through land use intensity or by simplification of the landscape, we are altering the floral diversity and hence the nutrients that are offered to the bees. And potentially that could lead to mismatches between the nutritional requirements from the bee species and what the landscape is offering to them. And that eventually we could assess that mismatch in health parameters like physiology, element composition, and pathogen resistance. We found that bees have actually diverse their responses to landscape stressors based on their traits. So, for example, we looked at abundance and survival chances at different species at different levels of complexity in the landscape, and we found some species are actually more vulnerable than others to simplification of the landscape. And we could explain some of those different responses by things like the specialization level of the bees and also the size. We also confirmed that what we proposed in the hypothesis that bees have diverse nutritional needs. So we did that by looking into which kind of pollen they had in their legs, and for a vast number of bees that we found in the landscape, and by looking at the nutrient composition of that pollen. And with that, we came up with these bubbles. Each bubble represents a space of nutrient combination that the bee species lives or depends on, and each of these bubbles belongs to a species that is written there at the bottom. And you can see that even though there are overlaps, of course, their position and the size of these niches is diverse. So this is all with wild bees, which have generally not been studied in that way. So that was actually quite rewarding from this project. And then we went into looking at the health parameters that we mentioned before. And we found that bees' health is actually affected by nutritional deficiencies. We don't really have a definition for health in bees yet, especially for wild bees, other than honeybee. But we did see that, for example, with increasing land use, we saw differences in protein content and glycogen content in the body of the bees. And more interestingly, and this is quite preliminary work, we found that bees that are high in limiting elements like iron, magnesium, calcium were also showing high resistance to pathogens. Finally, of course, we wanted to include people in our framework because those are the ones managing the land, of course, and making decisions that can alter or enhance these mismatches. And so we did a survey to see how much is actually known about bee nutrition. We looked in, we collected hundreds of responses from different countries around Europe. And in this graph, you can see the perceived notion of bee nutrition. In red would be the percentage of people that think that they don't know enough. And you can see that actually bee nutrition is not well known outside niche professions like beekeepers or seed suppliers that have the highest records of knowledge. Outside that, most people actually don't really think that they know that much. And this is a combination of, well, education, but also how some of these concepts, they are quite new, but also they remain in science and they are not always translated to different stakeholders. So that was also quite an interesting result from this project. And without, I actually probably I'm a bit short anyway in time or sticking to time, but I want to thank you for your attention and yeah, thank you for all the support for this really nice project.